Good morning, everybody. My slides are up. Well, I want to start by thanking Tobias and his team in putting this meeting together. Putting these meetings together is a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort and certainly a lot of planning. So let's give Tobias and his team a big hand. So I've been in this position since January 2nd, took over from Bob Klein, who had been in this position for about 25 years. And this first year has been a pretty fun experience and a great ride. So I am the executive director for the administrative committee for Pistachios, which is the federal marketing order. The primary things that we work on there are statistics, the domestic quality, and then we have an export program for the EU. And then the California Pistachio Research Board, which primarily focuses on production research. Okay, so I'm using some new technology. They gave me the magic wand, so let's see if this, I just want to see if this works here. There's a little pointer, not a green dot. So I thought I'd start out, I looked over the last 5 years of Bob giving this presentation, and I didn't see anything about talking about shipments. I know this is a research meeting, but really shipments are, especially the amount of shipments that we've had, are really the result of all the quality research that has taken place by the researchers. And so I wanted to highlight what it's looked like over the last couple of years. Let me switch this. So I'm going to start, because every year impacts the next year, I'm going to start with 2022. Let me just see if I can get this pointed to work. So 2022, okay, it died. It came back. So I want to start here with 2022. The 2022 crop, I see I didn't put it up there, but I think it was around 900 million pounds. Of that 900 million pounds, most of it got sold. We ended up with a carryover of 163 million pounds. And carryover represents open in-shell, closed shell, in-shell, shelling stock, and kernels. And of that 163 million total pounds, we had 110 million open in-shell left, which gets carried over into the 2023 crop. Our 2023 crop was a record year. It was 1.49 billion pounds harvested, with a total available crop of 1.65 billion pounds to sell. So we go into the 2023-2024 shipments. 1.2 billion pounds was shipped. Of that, 931 million pounds was exported, which represents about 78% of total shipments. And then we had about 847 million pounds of open in-shell that was shipped. And then in comparison, we had about 171 million pounds just that stayed domestically, that was in-shell shipments. What's interesting about that is 171 million pounds, when you carry that over the U.S. population, that's only a half a pound per person. Not very much. But that was really me before this job. I feel like I'm an outlier now. I think this whole year I've probably eaten about 25 to 30 pounds. So I've far exceeded the average American consumption for pistachios, which I think what we need to do with everyone else. So just to take a look at this and see what this looks like, these are our top 10 export markets. So China at 308 million. Let me just bring this up so I can make sure I can read this. 308 million, and then Germany at 105, and then the remaining countries, Spain, Vietnam, India, Italy, UAE, and then our partners to the north and south, Canada and Mexico, round out that top 10. What's interesting here is that Turkey is a major producer of pistachios. They can either be number 2 or number 3. They have over 500,000 acres of pistachios, and yet we're still exporting a fair amount into Turkey. Spain's also interesting in that they're furiously planting a lot of pistachios right now. They have about 200,000 acres of pistachios. What's going to be interesting there to watch is that Spain farms very similar to the way we farm here. The difference is that they're in the EU, and the EU is very quickly eliminating pesticides, and so that's going to be a real challenge for them. So they're farming a lot of this, most of their 200,000 acres organically, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. It will certainly be something for us to watch because that is what's happening here in California as well. Our Sacramento is trying to get rid of products that we need to manage pests and diseases, and it would be very challenging to very quickly switch over to an organic production system and still manage them the way we do. On the slide on the right, I've added the U.S., so there's about 250 million pounds of pistachios sold domestically. And that's everything. That includes open-end shell, closed-end shell, and kernels. And that comes out to about 3/4 of a pound per person when you look at the total shipments through the U.S. So going into 2024, 2025, carryover was about 184 million pounds total, with 102 million pounds of that as open-end shell. So the 2024 crop came in at 1.1 billion pounds harvested. And so we have a total of 1.29 billion pounds to sell. And so to date, we've got 400 million pounds that have been shipped. 319 million pounds have been exported, which represents about 80% of the total shipments. With 297 million pounds of that being open-end shell. And then just for comparison, about 54 million pounds to date, so this is September through December, have been shipped domestically. There's a lot, we publish a report every month, and there's a lot of data in there. And so if you're interested in that, you can go to the website, acpistachios.org, and download that for yourself. Sifting through all that can be very time-consuming, but there are a couple of places where you can get some smaller or shorter versions of that or more detailed versions. One of them, Jim Zion from Meridian, does his own little newsletter that comes out. You can find that on LinkedIn, and he goes through some of the shipping numbers. And then if you want a more detailed report, David Magana from Rabobank does a really nice job. In fact, I think he has an article in this month's West Coast Nut where he goes through the shipping report and looks at stuff around the world with respect to pistachios and really does a nice comprehensive report on what the industry looks like. So crop overview, 2023 was a record crop, and so going into the 24 season, trees had a short recovery time. Anytime you have a very large crop, doesn't matter what perennial crop you're growing, the next season may struggle a bit just as a result of that very large crop. And that certainly, I think, was the issue that we saw with some orchards this season. We had a warmish winter with average precipitation, erratic spring weather near or at bloom. March and April, you never know what kind of weather you're going to get. It's always unpredictable. It could be very warm in the 90s, or we could have some frost freeze events, which we had this past season. The thing that really we struggle with is this extreme heat that we're starting to experience season after season. And this July was extremely hot. I think we only had about 6 days that were under 100. But the entire month was a very, very hot month. In that first week of July, we experienced 114 to 116 degree temps in a lot of areas throughout the valley. And so that's very challenging for plants. Saw some foliage burn on some orchards, mostly on single line drip, and I'm seeing some of those orchards getting a second line this year. It's important to maintain soil moisture, and certainly well before we get into a month like July or even June, to make sure that that profile is fully wetted, so the trees aren't suffering during that time. We had adequate water, a moderate insect population damage. Navel orangeworm was very low. Mealybug, Gill's mealybug continues to plague this industry. It's a real challenge in terms of managing it. It's also causing other issues with respect to MRLs. And so that's something that we're working on to try to find someone who can develop a pheromone. That's the one thing that we're lacking with Gill's mealybug. And if we had a pheromone that would actually extend or improve the efficacy of the products that we do have. So we're working very hard to try to find a researcher that can come up with a pheromone. Leaf-footed and stink bug, certainly around and need to be mindful of those insects. And then we had grasshoppers up north, kind of unusual, but I guess it was a bad grasshopper year. There were several crops that got hit by damage up north. There we go. Crop harvest. So it was an off year at 1.1 billion pounds. We had delayed harvest, so poor removal at the start of the season. That happened up and down the state. And once we got past that, the nuts seemed to come off pretty easily. Open-end shell was at about 82%. We've maintained that number for about the last 5 years. The 5 years before that, we were in about the mid-70s, and I attribute that to probably mostly the new varieties that we're farming now. Again, low insect damage equals low mycotoxin presence. Nuts were clean, large, and little damage or whole breakdown was seen. So what is the 25 crop outlook? It's supposed to be an on year. Currently, bud counts are good. They look healthy. Chill is tracking similar to last year. We've had a lot of cool, foggy days, but we certainly need some more precipitation. We haven't had a rain event for some time now, and we need to make sure that that profile is filled up to 3 feet at the start of the season. So I would say if we don't start getting a rain event or having some more rain events very soon, probably should consider irrigation. So what is the prediction on the crop? Well, if we're looking at an average, industry average of about 3,000 pounds, we're looking at about a 1.5 billion pound crop. If we're looking at 3,300 pounds average, we're looking at a 1.6 billion pounds crop. And then if we're looking at a 3,800 pound per acre average, we're looking at about a 1.9 billion pound crop. The last time we had a season with an industry average of 3,800 pounds was in 2010, so it's not, it's certainly possible to have that average. But it remains to be seen what we're going to end up with. Is there anybody in here that thinks we're going to go with 1.9 billion pounds? I don't see any hands. About 1.4 billion. No hands? Nobody believes we're going to hit 1.4 billion? Okay, 2 hands. Well, I think a lot of people are thinking that we're probably going to be in the 1.5 to 1.6 billion pound area. And it looks like if we get that, it shouldn't be a problem in terms of selling it after our 1.49 billion pound crop and only having a couple hundred million left over. So we'll see how that goes. I want to talk a little bit about research. This is a quote from Todd Fischette, who I think is in the audience. I think Todd's over here. He's a writer for the Western Farm Press. I just recently read this article that he wrote about extension and the value of extension people, researchers. And I would certainly say that they certainly travel that sparsely traveled road, and they know it well. But on that note, I also think that their partners, and for us, that's the California Pistachio Research Board, also knows that road well too. These are the folks that determine what gets funded. They spend a lot of time reading through all the proposals that are coming in. We'll be looking at those proposals on February 5th and 6th this year and interacting with our researchers and really deciding on what we're going to fund this year. And I think the board has done a tremendous job in funding projects that are meaningful to the industry and that have real impact on the industry and the production that we've seen over the last at least 10, 15 years. Also, I'd like to highlight our UC Research Liaison, Julia Marino, who I've had the pleasure of working with for this last year. She also has to read through all the proposals in addition to writing her own proposals, and then really understand those proposals and help explain any areas that we need clarification on. Julia has done a tremendous job in that area. So just to highlight some of the research that we're doing. In 2024, we had 36 research projects totaling $2.7 million. They covered areas of education, genetics, physiology, entomology, nematology, plant pathology, and irrigation. A wide swath of production research. This last season, or the current season, 2025, we have 50 research projects submitted for funding. The request is $3.7 million in research dollars. I can tell you right now that that's $1 million over what we funded last year, and we won't be funding $3.7 million. The board is they're very specific in the types of research that they want done, and we've gotten a lot of projects that really don't fit the categories that they're looking to fill and better understand production of pistachios. So we've got 23 new projects this year, in addition to projects that are in year 2 or year 3 of funding. The researchers come from UC, CSU, USDA, and some private research companies. One of the things I've been doing is visiting with the scientists and really helping them better define their research and get it focused on what the CPRB board is interested in funding to make sure that we're coming out of the gate on new proposals and making an impact on that first year for growers in the industry. So what are the headwinds? The things that you guys think about all the time. Climate certainly is one of them. Climate is changing, whether it's man-made or some other Mother Nature just doing her thing. Plants don't. They just react to the climate that they're exposed to. And so we've got to find ways to mitigate the impacts of Julys that are really hot. Water, we live in the state of California. Water's a big deal. Certainly research in that area to use it more efficiently, either through new technologies or even coming up with rootstocks that are better at foraging for nutrients and water are important. And then the real thing that bugs me is invasive pests. I don't know that we're doing enough for agriculture for invasive pests. I don't know if any of you are on the CDFA newsletter list, but it seems like just about every week or every other week I get a note about some new pest that's impacting something in the state of California. And that's very concerning because the state of California we may go the same way as the EU, where we're starting to lose pesticides, starting to lose tools to manage pests and diseases. And with all these invasive pests that are coming into the state of California, certainly pistachios is going to be impacted. And I think agriculture in general needs to come together and really push Sacramento in a way that they focus more on keeping invasive pests out of our $60 billion industry. It's very important, especially if they're going to take away tools from us and we're going to have expected to manage and maintain the high quality that we've been producing over the last 15, 20 years. So just to finish up, Cindy Dean is the office manager, and Laura Larson is the compliance officer that work with me with ACP and CPRB. These two ladies have done a tremendous job over the last year, certainly helping me with my success. They jump in and will do anything that is asked of them, even installing a weather station. So I'd like to give both Cindy and Laura a big hand. If you ever call the office and I'm not there, one of them is going to pick up, and so those are the folks that you're going to engage with mostly. The other two people I'd like to thank over this last year is Bob Beatty, who's right here. Bob is a former colleague at UC. He's been a tremendous help for me in understanding pistachios. He answers my texts very quickly, picks up the phone when I need to, and he'll meet with me when I need to give me the understanding and knowledge that I need to do my job. So Bob, I thank you for your time. And then lastly is Bob Klein. Bob Klein, even though he's moved to Idaho, he's been a tremendous resource, been in this job for 25 years. We talk to Bob at least once a week, and he helps us out on a variety of issues. He still has a lot of knowledge that we're trying to download from him, and he's willing to talk to us anytime. So I appreciate Bob's help. And then with that, I think there was an executive order that was signed the other day, and basically eat more pistachios. Thank you for your time.